unit that we've been doing so far is called the creative process. And there's two reasons why I'm doing it. One is every time we approach a project, I'm trying to show you all the different steps that we will take to in the process of creating something. So we were kind of going through all the steps. We started with the fun stuff first, working in our sketchbooks, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about the creative process. But two, I want to help you with that sort of anybody that feels like I can't do art. I don't know how to do this. I'm not good at art. And this is all meant to sort of like guide you into how you do end up creating something that's good and all the different tools and stuff that we have. Okay. So if I've taught you before, I apologize that some of this is review. Okay, some of it's going to be a little bit different, but I find it really important to talk about this. Now, for me, the way that I'm approaching this with you is that that in between that what if and why not, let's go ahead and do it. So I'm always trying to like get rid of that fear of like, oh, I can't do this, because absolutely you can. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about what art is and things like that too. Okay, now this is when I get like too excited, and it's good that I get to sit at home and make PowerPoint to make videos, but then I get way too much information. So none of that's important. This part's important here. This is called the stages of the creative process according to the Ontario curriculum. Again, if I've taught you before, you've seen this. And it has all these different steps talking about challenging and inspiring is the first step of any project. So that's my job. My job is to give you sort of a challenge and sort of set up the context for you and try to inspire you so you're like, oh, cool, I really want to do this. This is great, right? And I try to demonstrate that already by giving you the context of the work that we're doing, right? These are some artists that have done it. These are some of the skills that you need to have to kind of do it, and this is like some ideas that you could try, right? So hopefully I've done my job and I've kind of pumped you up a little bit to be like, okay, this could be fun. Now, the next part is sort of generating ideas to get started. And I've taught you a couple of ways, right? I've taught you like how we could do it physically in the book. I've taught you how we could use Canva to do a collage, and I've taught you how to use AI. You could actually do it like sketching and stuff like that as well. And sometimes we will, right? Then we're going to plan and we're going to experiment and we're going to make our rough sketches and all that stuff here. Now, part of that generating an image generating is also making something called idea boards, and that's what we're going to focus on today. So normally, I've given you specifically, like, okay, this is what we're kind of making, and I'm going to try and make it more open so you can put your own personality and strengths and interests and stuff in there. So we're going to make these idea boards that are going to be your reference images, and we're going to focus on that today. Okay. Then you work in your sketchbook and you practice your skills and you do your rough sketches and you pull or you work on the computer, right? And then we make our final image and your artwork's done and it's magnificent. And then you're going to either have an art show with it or you put it on your website, and that's how you're going to display it. And that's how I'm going to mark it. And we're going to do that later this week. And then you could do a reflection, which everybody loves, on your art. Okay, so that's generally the process. Okay, so right now, I've done the challenging, inspiring. We did a bunch of planning and image generating, did some work in our sketchbooks. So today I'm going to show you how to make idea boards. But I want to stress this: if I could teach you anything about art in my old age, I think this is something that is the most important thing that I can teach you, is about the creative process. And so the creative process that we looked at from the Ontario curriculum makes it look like it's really easy. You do A, B, C, D, and then voila, you've got a piece of art. And we all know that it's not that easy, and it doesn't necessarily always work that way. And sometimes we make art that we plan, and sometimes it's better actually not to plan at all and to be spontaneous, right? But this is the most valuable thing I can sort of teach you right now about a creative process in art. And again, if I've taught you before, I talk about this, and this is so important, and I see it all the time, and you've probably experienced it. So for me, I'm all excited. I've time to think, I want to make this art piece, and I'm like, this is awesome, right? I've got it in my head. I've been inspired by all these things. I've got all my materials. It's cool. And then I sit down to actually do it, and I've got the idea in my head, but as I starting to do it, I'm like, oh, this is a bit tricky, right? It's not working out the way that I want it to do. It's a lot harder, than I thought. And then I start to look at what I'm making and I say, this is crap. Is that a bad word, right? And and then I go beyond that and I say, not only is the art that I'm making crap, but oh my gosh, I'm crap, right? And a lot of people stop there, and you probably all experience this, right? Where it's like, it's just not going your way. It's not what you exactly wanted. It's not like your sketch. It's not like the AI image that you did, right? And you take it so personally. And then a lot of people just stop the project and they give up, right? Or they don't want to do art anymore. I'm not good at art, right? So this is the biggest challenge in art. The secret to being an artist that I have learned is just not giving up and just following through and trusting the process and trusting yourself. I swear. That's all art is. It's just getting from that, this is crap, I am crap, to the next stage. Okay, so I promise you, and I guarantee you, we're going to experience this lots of times in class, that when you look at your piece of art and you think, ugh, I don't like this, I'm crap, this is not working out, I want you to accept what's in front of you. I want you to accept your style, maybe not exactly what's in your head, but accept what's happening in front of you and let it happen and don't give up. Because I promise you, I promise that if you continue with it, don't paint over it, don't rip it out of your sketchbook, don't start over. I promise if you continue with it and keep going, it's going to come together. And then you're going to look at it and you're going to be like, oh, this might be okay. You may not love it yet, but you will say, okay, this is okay. And you'll feel better. And then you're going to finish it. And then you're going to look at it and you're going to say, you know what, this is awesome. It may not look exactly like you planned in the beginning, but that's okay. Art is a journey, right? If you pre-planned absolutely everything about your art, then what's the point of making it? It's pretty boring, right? So sometimes that this is awesome. For me, sometimes it doesn't happen right away. Maybe I'll look back a year later and go, oh, actually, that was pretty good. Why was I so mad about that? Actually, that's really good. But I promise that this is the awesome part will come back. Okay, so that's the most important thing that I can talk to you about the creative process. All right, I have 1,000 more slides about this, but I don't want to keep talking about it. But I'm going to talk about two more things really quickly because I'm trying to set the stage for you about what this course is about and how we're going to make it. Okay, so I'm going to talk about what is art, first of all, and I promise I won't talk too long. Semester, I won't keep blabbing on like this all the time. Next week, we're going to get in our groove. You're going to know what to do. I will stop talking so much. But I really need to talk about this though, like what is art? And I'm not going to go on and on and on, right? But I just want to talk to you about now contemporary art, what is art, and what that means to you. Okay, so because I'm not there, we can't have discussions about this. But really quickly, I don't know if anybody's seen this. We've had discussions about this before in the past, but this is an art gallery and it's a pair of glasses on the ground, right? And I've asked people in the past, okay, well, what does this mean? What is this art piece about? Because people seem to be really interested on it. And, people came up with ideas about, perspective and getting down to people's level so you can see things a certain way and yada, yada, yada. But in fact, this was somebody that was kind of making fun of the art world and people in a gallery, and they just put their glasses on the ground, right? And everybody was like, oh, it's art, right? So even though the artist maybe didn't intend it to be art, it was kind of making fun of art, people found meaning in it somehow, and they did find it art, maybe because it was in a gallery, right? We can have a whole discussion on that, right? Sometimes art is just mocking other art. Sometimes art can be really serious. But my point is this, what is art? And in the past, right, this is the Mona Lisa. It's the most famous painting, right? Leonardo da Vinci, he was a genius artist, blah, 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 blah. Okay. But in the past, it's always like people understand art has to be realistic. You have to go to school for it, right? You're like genius quality. It has all this meaning, right? And then so many people think, well, that's unattainable. And it doesn't mean that nowadays that we're not capable of that. We totally are capable of that. It's just that what art is has changed so much that it's just not one thing. And this is good for us because this makes art accessible to so many people. And, frankly, like when I go to art galleries and I look at like a Renaissance room of Renaissance paintings, I mean, they're all cool and stuff like that, but man, it gets boring after a while. So, what is art? Can it be Vincent van Gogh, right? Where he's, painting about emotions and these rough, brush strokes. Can it be pop art where like you're stealing images and like mass producing them and like using these weird colors, right? Can it be this abstract painting where you're just throwing paint in it? And all this stuff was done like, 100 years ago. So this isn't very shocking, you know. This one here, and I asked people, okay, well, this looks like an abstract piece of art. Do you like it? And a lot of people are like, yes, I like it. Again, if I was in class, we'd have the discussion on it, right? What could it be? What does it mean? And people say, oh, it looks like a landscape, or maybe it's a photo from space. And this actually is a piece of copper that Andy Warhol peed on. And when you pee on it, it oxidizes and it makes that bluey green color, right? So, I mean, I know it's weird, but the idea is art can be so much, right? And some of you, we've looked at this a little bit. Art can be making fun of like, what is art and what is reality? What is this image on this page in this world, right? This one here, this is our Marcel Duchamp piece. It's a urinal. He's put it on the side and he signed it over 100 years ago. I mean, this was shocking. This shouldn't be shocking to us now. It's just that people started questioning, what is art? What is life? What is the visual world that we see, right? This is a dress by Janice Steinbeck. It's called a meat dress. You may recall this, that Lady Gaga wore something like this. And where does she get this from? From this artist here, right? It's a metaphor. Women can be seen as meat, right? But I mean, it rots. This woman has to sit there in this raw meat and probably have to change all the time, right? But again, it's art. It's a lot about ideas sometimes too. It's not that it's not like realistic stuff anymore, like Leonardo da Vinci. It's just that plus a whole bunch more, right? You've probably seen this, this famous piece. It's a banana duct taped to a wall, right? But it sold for a lot of money. Does that make it art because it sold a lot of money? Like, again, I don't know the answers to everything, but it could be makeup, it could be anime, it could be tattoos, it could be photography. The idea is that art is everywhere. Okay, so just keep that in mind for a couple more minutes, okay? But I think I just had so much time to think and get ideas here. Okay, now the reason why I'm setting this context about what is art and how there's so many different ideas of art is because all these things, like the urinal painting, like the peeing on the copper painting, all these people questioning what art is and giving it new definitions is the reason why we have things like street art and graffiti and other things that we're going to look at. Now, so I want to set up that context. Now, art, yes, it's art, but there's kind of a new term that sort of is more encompassing for all of these things that we make, and it's visual culture. Okay, and I don't need to go into all these things again. I get too excited. Okay, but what I want to do is I want to talk about this shift because I think still we are trained and we think in the traditional art way, but with visual culture, it just makes it really different in terms of what art is. Okay, so traditional art, the whole idea quickly is that only trained artists can create art, right? You got to go to art school and you got to work under this artist, right? But now we're going to be looking at a lot of different types of arts where it's accessible to anyone. Anyone can learn to create art, right? You don't have to go to the big fancy schools, right? You can be self-taught. Things like Canva. You don't have to be an expert at Photoshop. We have things like Canva now that we can do the same concepts, right? So that's the sort of idea, right? In traditional art, only certain materials that be used to create art, right? Like when I went to university, it was painting, printmaking, sculpture. That was art, right? And nowadays, I mean, you can make art out of garbage. You can make them out of bananas duct taped to a wall, right? It's exciting, right? Traditional art, which is huge, is like things like fashion, jewelry, pottery, anything sort of crafty was not considered art. There was like this hierarchy where it's like, Mona Lisa and painting and printmaking, sculpture, and this lower thing of like this crafty kind of stuff. That's, that was lower and it was not on the equal plane. It was not considered art, but that's all changed now, right? We recognize the quality and the skill and the creativity about all that stuff. So that's included in visual culture. That's included in art now, right? Traditionally, right, art has to be recognizable shapes and objects, right? Which is why like all this abstract stuff, you're like, well, that's not art, right? But it is now. Anything can be art in a lot of ways, right? And traditional art has to conform to certain expected styles, certain forms, has to look a certain way. But now our job actually as artists is to explore new styles and get and address different issues and different ideas and different feelings, right? It's not just one thing. Art before is to make it art and to make it valuable, it had to be expensive. That's what made it valuable. And that's why we're still in that mindset. Oh, somebody sold that painting for $1 million. It must be art. It must be good. And that's not necessarily the way now. Like art nowadays is all works have some value, right? They have, it's not just about money. It's they need to contribute criticism of society. Maybe they contribute new ways of creating art. I'm almost done, right? Before, there's only a few ways to understand, appreciate art. I don't know if your other classes, if you've ever had to sit there and like talk about art history and like, or talk about each other's art, right? But now there's more ways to understand and appreciate art because traditionally only certain perspectives had value, right? The art historian would tell you about it. You open up that art history book and oh, that's what it's supposed to mean, right? But now it's sort of like just like that example with the glasses on the floor, right? Maybe one person has sort of an understanding of what that means. Maybe another person has a different understanding of the meaning behind it. Maybe the artist has a different understanding. It's kind of like a conversation now, right? Because before, traditionally, art used to be, I'm the artist, I made this painting, this is my big thought, this is what I'm telling you, right? But now, art is like a conversation, right? I'm asking a question. What is art? Who said it's good art? I'm going to put this urinal in here and I'm asking this question, right? To sort of challenge your views, right? And the viewer starts having this conversation about, well, it could be art, somebody made it, but wait a second, he didn't make it. And, it's that sort of, idea of having that conversation. Okay. Almost done. Art used to be for art experts, the wealthy and educated people, right? It was very much just for like elite. Now, art is for everyone. And I hope that when we do this class, that's my focus. This is where I'm coming from. Art is for everyone. There's more than one way to make art. Okay. So with this in mind, I'm going to show you. We're going to do an idea board, and then I promise the rest of the semester I'll stop talking so much.